where you guys added a late recruiting and Forney. I mean, just talk about that process with him, how you guys were able to get him here.
Yeah, I would say to start off, Coach Collins did a phenomenal job. So we started, well, not we, Coach Collins probably started back in about 8th grade, 5-6 years ago with Tony. They've had a great relationship for a long time. But I actually went out there and saw Tony during the spring. Got to watch him practice. They do their practice in the mornings, do everything. I got a chance to watch him spend morning with him, watch him in the weight room, talk a lot of ball and everything. Then we had him set up for an OV. Some things didn't work out. He ended up committing to Missouri. Then he ended up staying committed to Missouri all the way throughout. And a few days ago, Coach Collins comes into the office. You know, he's working on something and talks about Tony. And, you know, a pleasant surprise this morning, he's signing the NIL. So I can't say enough about what Coach Collins did just with that relationship and not letting go of that, even though he committed somewhere else, to just keep going through that and fighting and battling and keeping that relationship strong, and to get his commitment and to sign those papers this morning. So that relationship was a heck of a job, and to stay strong on that.
What do you like about him as a safety or something that stood out to you?
I think he's very versatile. Like when you see him, well, first things first, you see him on all special teams. You see Tony blocking punts. You see him on kickoff return. I think he had an 87-yard kickoff return, 85-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. Then you see him on defense. You see him at the nickel position, so he's playing man-to-man coverage down there at nickel. Then you'll see him just with his range playing the middle of the field safety. So you just see him have range, cover the field, then just roll down in the box, sifting through some traffic, working off color, making plays, tracking guys, and making some solid hits in the box. So you just see that versatile, him doing everything. You see him from zone coverage to man coverage, to his tackling, to his open field tackling, and playing on special teams. So, from that standpoint, you see a football player that can do a lot for us. So you can see him play field safety, boundary safety, then absolutely help us in special teams as well.
Seems like Isaac played a little bit of linebacker too. Is versatility something you look for in all your safeties?
Yeah, Isaac. We got to talk to Isaac. So Coach Manilak recruited Isaac. So Columbus, another Columbus kid. Coach Manilak's done a great job up there. We got some good success with those Columbus kids on defense right now. But he did play closer to the box, and he throws up that sharp signal about 2 or 3 times this year. So got to talk to him to let him know he's playing safety and DB. But later in the season, during playoffs and everything, they did move him closer to the box, which was good to see for me, because you see him do a lot of covering and everything. But now see him in the box, you see him bite a little bit more, which that was one thing we talked to him about going into the season and everything. So now you get to see that. And he actually created some forced fumbles, some TFLs, and that. So I love the fact that they put him closer, because I know he can cover. I know what he can do from that standpoint. I mean, he was a sub-11 kid from a track standpoint, very fast. That was one of the first things that popped out. Then from a movement standpoint, his movements are so efficient. There's no wasted movements when it comes to Isaac, of transitioning and everything in space. So to see him close to the box, making the tackles and showing physicality was something that we were very happy with at the end of the season this year.
You obviously want to train your safeties to play both spots, but when you look at these 3 guys, do you see any of them fitting maybe a little bit better at one safety spot as opposed to the other?
Yeah, I think Isaac will start at field for sure. Actually, they'll probably both start. I think Tony might end up at the boundary, but there's no way to discredit him to say he can't play the field and just put him in a box. You know, at the end of the day, in the secondary, we don't want to put anybody in a box. We recruit DBs, and that's what Coach said from the start. I know we say 3 safeties, 1 corner, but at the end of the day, we recruited 4 defensive backs. And whatever we can do to get those guys on the field, that's what we're going to do. So I would say both of them will probably start at field safety. Then we'll see where we go from there. The best part is they're both early enrollees. So they're going to get a lot of strength training and a lot of practice this spring to see where we can place those guys.
Is Duran in that mix?
Yes, yes. Duran's in there too. So Duran actually played a lot of corner this year. I mean, Duran did everything. Played a lot of running back. I think he had 400 rushing yards his last game of the year this year. So yeah, Duran's in that same category as well. I think Duran would probably be a good 3rd down Delta nickel as well too. So, but yeah, all those guys are versatile. They're all smart kids too. That's the biggest thing. Like when you talk ball, and that's one of the prerequisites, just as you go through it, like one of those things, like obviously you get to know who the kids are, their character, who they are as people and everything. But then the next thing, like as you see our pillars of the program, like knowledge, like we got to make sure we get smart football players. That's going to be something we do. We put those guys on boards, on the board, talk ball, draw up their defense, and we're very strenuous on that. And all 3 of those guys, to get to this point, have to pass that test. So I'm very happy to know that those guys will be multiple because of their knowledge.
How much do you think it helps for these, like Coach said, all 10 defensive recruits are coming in early? How much do you think that helps them?
Yeah, it just gives you a leg up, right? I mean, when you look at the spring and those 15 practices that they do get, I mean, gosh, that's, I don't know, 500-600 reps, you know, that guys that are still in high school that aren't getting. So they're getting those reps and they're already getting acclimated sooner with the playbooks and just the speed of the game. So now as they go to the summer and everything, when we're not around and those summer enrollees are getting there, they're just trying to get up to speed. So these guys are so far advanced past that, or just have more reps and playing faster. So I think it does give them a leg up from that standpoint of just being able to get here earlier, just sit down one-on-one with us too as coaches. So in February we can really slow it down, really go through football one-on-one and really break that thing down and set a strong foundation for those players when they first get here in January.
Anything else?
How much do these incoming defensive backs have to live up to what you did from Sean Lee and Josh Guerriere this year?
Sean Lee, gosh, he did a heck of a job. Sean, at interception touchdown against Stanford was pretty special. So we're very pleased with both those guys. But, you know, expectations, like, you know, what Sean Lee did and Josh did, you know, what these next guys do, that, you know, they burn their own path, you know what I mean? They're on their own journey. So what those guys did has no impact on what these guys do. You know, we just got to move at their pace and move them along how they need to be moved along in understanding our defense and just getting them up to speed here. So, but we look forward and we're excited for all four of the defensive backs coming in and what they bring to the table and how they fit in what we do structurally defensively.
You know, 6'2", 170-pound cornerback. He's a guy in which that, again, he's got a lot of good versatility. He's got really good ball skills. For his size, he has an incredible amount of twitch and have great change of direction. So as you watch him throughout the season, he played with a lot of physicality, and more the season went on. I think that his mother kind of called me one day and said, Coach, you got to make a lot more physical plays. You know what I mean? Nothing's coming to him. They're not throwing at his side. And, you know, he had a good talk with him together and then told him to get his butt to the ball. And as you watch his season progress, you were able to see that physicality that he brought to the table. So I credit his mother to that as well, because she's on him. She's a football mom, taking him around his whole entire life, you know, just making sure he stays involved, you know, staying around the right people and becoming the person that he is. With that being said, that's who he is, and you know, I think he had around 5 interceptions as well this year. You know, 1 in each of the last 3 games, which again, he gets better and better as time goes on, and those are some of the things in which that you know from him, and you like those characteristics that he shows.
What's the mentality you need from a corner, from a recruited corner like here?
Well, you got to have confidence, all right? I mean, that's first and foremost. You know, you're on an island. So with that being said, you know, you got to be a person which that does not have a long-term memory. You got to be able to drop things, go to the next play mentality. You got to be able to understand that you're going to be lining up with someone right across from you each and every play. He's not going to go anywhere, and you better not go anywhere. When things do happen, you want to be able to get back up and understand that you're going against that guy one more time. And, you know, so you got to, without anything else, you got to have doggone confidence.
Is that one of the selling points for a corner in this defense, that you can almost say to guys like, look, this isn't for everybody?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, because you got to be a dog, you know, to be able to play on that island. And like I said, in Coach Narduzzi's system has, you know, been proven a number of great corners on the outside, you know, have come through this system. You know, and one thing about it, you know, the people at the next level understand that they've been battle tested. There's nobody that's going to come out of these, you know, out of these 4 walls in which that has not been battle tested, and they do know how to respond and with anything that usually happens with them. You know, and it's a complex system with press quarters. You know, I mean, they're able to respond very, very quickly to checks, you know, within a second. So that's why they translate well at the next level as well.
Of course, said you've been following Tony since he was really young. I mean, what stood out from him even when he was, you know, 8th grader in middle school?
And he loves football, and he's a worker. You know, I obviously watched him practice. You know, I watched him came to his school over when he started off at Creekside, and just watching him out there practicing. You know, I kept asking who that guy was. And at that time, I think he was an 8th grader, if I'm not mistaken. With that being said, he loves the game of football. So those are things that stood out to me back when he was a youngin', you know. And then he was able to get on over to Kell High School, and he's the same person. You know, when you talk to those coaches there, they say the same exact thing that his coach prior to over at, Cedar Grove. I said Creekside, I said Cedar Grove. You know, in which, you know, it's the same attributes that they talked about him with having. which is being a worker, a guy in which that puts his head down, and just loves the game of football. He's always there early, stays later, and always working on his craft.
Stats in high school aren't always, they don't always translate. But when a guy has 5 interceptions, is that one that jumps out to you?
Well, it's just always amazing as you look at their high school film throughout time. Certain people have some sort of bad habits. Some people have what I call that it factor. And a lot of times when you see guys in which they go up and make plays, it translates over to college. It's always very remarkable when you have that it factor that you see it on the next level too. And some people can work and keep working and keep working, and then they'll develop more of those skills. But when you got that it factor and it shows up early in your life, sometimes even down to little league, and it translates over to high school. And when that stuff happens over and over again, you really see it translate every single level that you go to.
About 3 linebackers, starting with Marcus Jennings from Cass Tech High School in Detroit, Michigan. Big shout out to Coach Collins. Did a great job securing the top talent in his home state, cultivated that relationship, and defended him all the way to the finish. So excited about Marcus. He comes from a great high school program, won a state championship last year, made it to the finals this year, so comes from a great program, knows how to win, comes from a great family. Dad brought him up here a year ago to the game, and seeing him on the field, you could see Marcus's long frame. You could look at his father, Milton, and say, Marcus is going to grow into a monster. And so love his dad, intense dude, awesome guy. Mom was able to come up for spring ball and see everything too, and spending time with her, seeing how passionate she was about her son. She's showing me videos of childhood, watching him play, grow up. She even had a door, the Ring camera on the doorbell, capturing him being dominant out in the front yard. So he's always been that guy. So Marcus, for me, one of the things that always stands out is just great attitude. I mean, he's always got a smile on his face, positive attitude. He's got a great energy about him, loves football, loves to compete, loves to win. And then just physically, he's got the long limbs, he's aggressive as hell. He moves well in coverage, dominates the perimeter blocking, tackles well in space, and this year did a great job blitzing off the edge and creating havoc in the backfield. One of my favorite plays, I think it was their first playoff game, he picks off the very first pass of the game for a pick 6, and so he's got that playmaking ability that we love, and so he's a hell of a football player. Excited about him, think he fits very well into our star mold. Could potentially grow into a money. So that's Marcus. Next one, Desmond Johnson from Miami Northwestern, which is home of Pitt great Kalijah Cansey down there in Miami. Credit Coach Laster doing a great job finding Des down there, cultivating that relationship. Another great high school program. Won a state championship last year. They're still in the playoffs this year, doing well. Comes from a great family. Got to spend time with mom and dad. His dad worked hard on making sure he understood work ethic and earning what he wanted in life, and that's something you can see Des wears proudly, is how hard he works. When I flew down to see Des, just picked up my rental car and went to check out the little booth there. The coach, or the guy in the booth, recognized my logo and said, "Are you here to see Des?" And it caught me off guard. I'm just checking out, getting my rental car. And I was like, yeah, how'd you know that? And he ended up being the O-line coach at Miami Northwestern, doing a little, side job. And he's like, he gives us fits every single day. He's tough as nails. And so I got a testimonial before leaving the airport on Des, which is awesome. But as you talk to other coaches in the area, you talk to the coaches on the staff and his teammates, toughness is the word that comes to mind with Des. I mean, he is as tough as it gets. I even asked one of his fellow linebackers, hey, we put you in a phone booth, who's coming out? And he was embarrassed to admit it wasn't him. He knew Des was that guy. But he's a twitchy athlete, great nose for the football. He's always flying around. He's reckless with his body. You see him flying down on kickoff. I know Coach Bro's going to love that. But he punishes guys, and then he has fun doing it. And you see him celebrating. He's got that juice. But again, he's a hell of a football player. Excited to have him. I think he fits probably money first, but we'll cross-train him, probably some star. Maybe he could grow into a Mike. We'll see. And then the third linebacker, excited about Ike Simmons. From Maury High School down there in Virginia. Again, credit Coach Laster, finding him, cultivating that relationship, great area recruiter, but another great high school program. So 3 for 3 on great high school programs. They've won 2 championships already. They're in the mix for a 3rd, so they're still playing in the playoffs. Great family, meeting mom and dad, military background, raised him with discipline, great people. And so he comes from another great family. Got a chance to go down there and watch his team practice. Reminded me of the movie Miracle, watching Herb Brooks line them up and just keep running them, and you can see why their program is so successful, because those guys train their tails off. And then watching Ike specifically, big muscle-bound young man, watching running with the skill athletes really stood out. So he's running with a bunch of smaller, leaner guys and pushing those guys. It was impressive to see him running like that day. But Ike's he's a leader. He's smart. He has great work ethic, ultimate competitor type guy, and he has the confidence at that level to be vocal, which is different, I think, than a lot of guys. He believes in himself. He believes what he's doing enough to have the confidence to look his teammates in the eye and hold them accountable, which is huge. But he's aggressive, has good instincts, plays with a high motor, and again, another good football player. So I think he'll be a great leader in the middle, be a great Mike linebacker for us. We'll also, train him at money. So 3 guys, very excited about. Questions?
When you're talking with these commits, how often do they talk to you about what they see from the current linebackers here, obviously with the linebacker core, and how much does it just mean to have that as a selling point?
Yeah, that's a great question. All along the process, as we look at different guys, identifying guys for our fit, when we're able to sit down and watch film with them, that's a huge selling point. Look at our guys run fast, hit hard, make plays in the backfield, defensive touchdowns. Our aggressive scheme is a huge selling point, and that's certainly something they need to have, right? You want a guy who wants to come in here and be aggressive, and you see guys light up when they see those plays and envision themselves making those plays in the future. So that's huge. And our guys in the room, the linebacker room, do a great job of selling that as well, sharing their experience and what's asked of them, and so I think that's a huge thing.
What are the biggest advantages for those guys just to be able to come in January, mid-year, as early in goalies?
Coming in January is a huge advantage. Coach Bates is a big proponent of giving us time to teach in the mornings, and so we make the most all year round of teaching those guys fundamentals, football in general, situational football, scheme. And so by the time a young man starts fall camp, he's already had a winter install, a spring install, a beginning of summer install, 15 spring practices. I mean, the amount of knowledge they gain, just football, that's on top of strength and conditioning, nutrition, right? Knowing where everything is on campus and the relationships with everybody in the whole program. Just football is a huge growth potential. And then you can come into fall camp, running, ready to go.
I think I remember 3 years ago you being really excited about the class you were bringing in with Braylon and Rasheem and Jordan Batts. Hearing you now, I mean, you obviously have a lot of excitement about this. Not comparing them as players, but is your excitement about this group, is it on the level that it was 3 years ago for that group?
Absolutely. And we work hard, everybody in the building, recruiting staff, through, area recruiter, position coach, coordinator, head coach, to make sure we're getting the right guys for Pitt football. And so, like I say, when we find those guys that fit, it is exciting. And so you hear that in my voice, that's genuine. I'm excited to see what these guys do. They come up to Pitt and fly around and make plays. It's going to be awesome.
Ryan, do you find with this ability, especially on the defensive side, that when you walk into high school, like, guys know exactly what you're running. They know what to expect. They know what your guys are going to do.
Absolutely. I think that's a huge selling point. And obviously Coach Narduzzi coming in here and providing the stability, and our defensive staff stability with Coach Bates is huge. Usually a big question from mom and dad, right? They want to know that, that the plan for their son that's told to them as a junior in high school is going to last the 4 or 5 years of their journey. And so we're blessed to be able to provide that. And I do think that's a huge thing and a huge advantage. Because again, going back to the first question, the dream you're selling, the ability for them to make plays in your scheme, we can show that that's happened here in the past, and it's going to continue, and it's not everywhere in the country. You look at the people who change, the landscape of college football is not the same everywhere. So we're very blessed in that.
Spoke about Coach Collins' relationship with Marcus, but what about your relationship with him and how that's grown over the last year or so?
Yeah, I have a great relationship with Marcus. Like I said, he has great personality. He's fun to talk to. He's always got something going on, always working. Loves football. He could talk about his own football for days, going through his highlights and plays. So he's fun. Same with Dad. Same with Mom. Great people. And so excited to continue to build that. Excited to get him here and coach him, because I think he's a young man that wants to be great. Understands that you can't do it alone. You need guys around you, and so he'll be open to great coaching, which is fun.
When you talk about the relationships and like with families and stuff, how important is it that as we were talking about earlier, so many kids from high school, their rosters comprised of so many guys you guys recruited out of high school, at your position in particular, linebacker, you know, there hasn't been a whole lot of beginning of the transfer portal. Most of these guys are guys you recruited out of high school and have that relationship. How much does that help you to have, say, hey, we recruited these guys, they're here, they're playing, they're succeeding?
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. I mean, like you said, my room, just talking about myself, when I can look in the room and I've recruited the whole room, that's powerful to me, important to me, and I think certainly the guys in the room, younger guys coming in can ask an older guy, hey, tell me about your path. And I think, you know, adversity is going to happen in college football. So when a young guy can lean on an older guy for something he went through, a tough time, maybe it's an injury or setback, or maybe he's not a starter yet and wants to be, tell me about that journey. Guys can tell him how that's been handled in the past, what to expect, and it gets back to the consistency that we have within our program, which I think is a huge asset.
Enough. What Coach started off with, this entire building, from the basement on up. I mean, this is a team effort in recruiting and like no other place I've ever been. I'm talking about the weight room. I'm talking about our dietitians, academics. I mean, this is people investing and asking, what can I do more to help us move this forward program? Big picture of this trio of young man, I let these guys know early on, all the way through signing day today, you're my parking lot guys. Like, I've identified them, this is what we want. Parking lot football players on the D-line at Pitt. Guys, tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., we got a game, but there's no media. There's no Twitter. You love football, put your toes on the line, and who's ready to run their face through somebody? And these three kids check those boxes. Not what does football bring to them. They love the game of football, and I think there's a difference. When you go to this level of football, you better love it. Like, love it every single day, because this game can give and take, and these kids, they got it. Big picture boxes they check, unbelievable homes. Like, not good homes, great parents, got the right fundamentals to be winners in life, okay? Second, I've heard it as a theme with my colleagues, great football programs. Okay, here we're talking about Whitfield, two of the best programs in the state of Pennsylvania. Two of their best ones coming right here to Pitt. And then you go in the state of Virginia at Kings Fork with Pittman. They just lost to Ike last week, made a great run in the playoffs. I saw these guys practice. I've seen them play. These guys are ready to go. Specifically, Josh Pittman, okay? Coach JJ, getting a lot of love today, and you deserve it, man. Put him in front of me, loved him. You went out and saw him. I was able to see him in the spring. Those live evaluations, any way you can get them. You don't buy a car, you don't test drive. And I was able to see Pitt lift. I was watching practice. I said, this is my kind of guy. Took him a little bit longer to get to the finish line. He made a little detour, but he got back home. I saw him about a month ago live, and bro, he runs down the field, puts his face through someone on a kickoff. I could have left then. This kid's a 6'2.5", 6'3", 230, flying down the football field, one of the best players on the field, and he's doing that for his team. Talk to him every single week, talk about his process as he gets ready for a game. I'm like, wow, he's giving me detailed scouting reports. I feel like I'm ready to go play right next to him on Friday nights. This kid loves football, absolutely loves football, made a great run, very versatile kid, almost an 80-inch wingspan. I see him doing a lot of things, in Coach Bates' defense, on the ball, off the ball, flexibility, but a physical kid that loves football. Here locally, like I said, it's a great feeling when you set out recruiting here at the University of Pittsburgh to sell the D-line, and we get the two best D-linemen in the state of Pennsylvania. The best defensive end in Reston Lehman and the best defensive tackle in Lincoln Hope. Turn on the film. Lincoln Hope, watch him. He did it the right way, the old school way through camp. He was going to his junior year and came out to camp and just gave Darvo fits all day long at camp. And the more you're around Lincoln, you're like, hey, man, I want this kid in my life. Holy smokes, you watch him, a defensive tackle, just take over high school football games at defensive tackle. And everyone in the stadium knows he's the best player in the field, and nobody can stop him. His dad, Chris, obviously the genes he comes from, but Chris and Jamie just did an unbelievable job with Lincoln raising this kid the right way, tough as nails. He's ready to come over here tomorrow and start lifting weights with Coach Stack downstairs. Love Lincoln over here at it, expect him right away. Reston, okay, long courtship with Reston. I don't know if there's a recruit I've recruited in my 25 years that I know better than Reston Lehman as he comes over here. Comes from, like I said, a great family. Huge support system down there in Peters Township. Just had a phenomenal run under his leadership there on the defense. Also played tight end. He's also been the punter. He was right there with Lincoln at that camp 2 years ago. Then we saw him live. We try to, we do things the right way here. Real meaningful offers going in on this kid. And Reston checks a ton of boxes for us. You watch him play, the length, the energy. This kid just, he's dropping, makes some picks along the sideline. He's blitzing off the edge. for Coach McMillan down there at Peters, doing a great job with his defense. As you know, that family's been very, very good to us, and expect Reston to be the next great addition from Peters. Questions?
I guess we're looking at Reston, you play a little bit of linebacker as well. Do you like that sort of hybrid, like edge rusher?
Well, you know, as they go down there at Peters, you know, you put your best players anywhere here as well in position to succeed. And they run an odd front, and he's on the edge, stand up outside linebacker. You know, I see us get in a room and argue about who our best players are and getting them on the field in the right situation. So, you know, I see him throw a shark up signal as well. I'm going to check Manilac's call log and see who he's calling and tell these kids. But no, Reston's certainly excited to come play on the edge.
Are you open to those kind of athletes? Like, do you find yourself watching almost as many like stand-up edge rushers as you do guys with their hands in the
So
air?
as you watch a kid, if he's a big linebacker, I'm checking those kids out. Reston's going to be almost 6'4" when he gets here, between 225 and 230, with just a frame to grow. I think he played, you know, 2 sports a season almost down there. He's always doing something. Going to be a great kid. You know, give me those big Mike linebackers to play in our athletic defense where those kids can be on the edge. You know, it's about frame and where you're going to be someday. Reston is that kid.
How much of an asset was Lincoln's dad for him in his football development?
For his dad, for his me. I mean, I went in that home visit and was like, let's move things out of the way. Let's start drilling. The guy's unbelievable. You know, he played 11 years at a high level, right next door. And just, hey, I would get notes Saturday morning from Chris Hoke, play by play. This is what Lincoln did last night. Sometimes with some video and some voiceover. I mean, this kid wakes up in the morning and here you go. This is what you did last night on Friday. Go in the backyard and work. And I think you know, he's going to be far ahead fundamentally. Just an unbelievable resource, as you would imagine.
From watching the film, it looks like Lincoln just has a really quick get off in there in the interior. What else just stands out about his play?
When you watch that, if you don't have that here at Pitt, I got to go on to the next. I mean, and Lincoln gets off the football and plays on the other side of the line of scrimmage. And just watching him live, okay, his senior year, he doesn't stop. I mean, he's playing both sides of the football at a high level here in the Whitfield. It doesn't stop. Things are good, things are bad, and then boom, Lincoln showing up, making a play at a critical time for his football team. You know, you want to talk about a mature young man. I mean, balance on the field, off the field. I think he's going to make a smooth transition over here and be a leader in the defensive line room for years to come.